All right, guys, welcome back. This is going to be, I believe, number 7 of my Sunday meditations slash reflections. Um, Maybe we'll call this a hybrid too. I'm not. Maybe I'll call this something different. Um, okay, but let's jump right into this. I'm not going to hold us back anymore. You guys have heard me enough at this point, I think. So let's get right into it. Let's see. Lots of people get stuck on understanding a side or an alternative perspective that they end up going against it. This is the root of all duality. People find themselves liking and understanding one side of an argument and never fully understand the opposing side. I've certainly talked about this before, but it's an important one. That's why I keep circling it. I'm going to say it in a different way because eventually this is going to click for somebody. And even if it doesn't click, it's a great reminder. That's kind of another reason I do these for myself, even, is they're reminders, different ways to look at these things. But what happens is, and I like to use politics as a good example because we can all relate to it. There's the leftists versus the rightists, okay? And there's extremes on each side. Not too many people fall in the middle, although I think most people belong in the middle. I really do. We just get so fueled or we attach to one side more than another, and there's a million different reasons why we do that. People that we love and care about, or people that have raised us, or people that we look up to and we idolize, they pick a side, and we're kind of like, well, if it works for them and I like that person, I like it too, for just simple reasons like that. A lot of people do it that way without spending too much time or thought. Or maybe you will be that person that kind of digs into it and looks, but then you're going to find out that you're going to like maybe one side a little bit more than the other. But the problem is that once you pick a side, you stop considering the other side at all. You don't think about the things that they represent, or maybe you did for a little while, but you ended up picking a side anyways, because that's what everybody else does, right? So that's kind of the core of duality, is we do this with everything in life. We will pick a side, and then we'll stick to that side. And sometimes we'll take some time to think about it, process it, and do all those kind of things. But eventually we pick a side anyways, okay? And what I'm suggesting that you do is take some time to really sit back objectively, without your emotions, nothing subjectively about it. Try to sit back and honestly put yourself in another person's shoes that is on the opposition, and try to pretend to live that person's life. Or try to understand what it is that they care so much about. Why are they on that side? And really try to pretend like you actually care about the same things that they care about. That's going to be hard to do because you're going to be so focused on what it is you care about and what your side is, because you've built your identity around that. So for you to kind of step outside of that for a second and consider another alternative, it's going to be challenging. That's kind of the point, though, is for you to try to really sit there. And I think if you're really honest, you're going to start to see some parts of the other side that you're going to be like, well, that makes sense why they care so much about that. Or, man, this is balancing out what I like. It needs opposition in order for it to work. The whole world is built on contradictions, paradoxes, and balancing everything out as one big. Even war and peace balances itself out. I don't necessarily agree with war, but I also understand that for war to even, or for peace to even exist, there's got to be some type of a battle, or else how would you know what peace even is? You wouldn't. So it needs that other opposition to exist. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but you need to understand that that's how everything balances itself out here. It's literally like a checkbook that balances itself out. The entire world is built on these things. Things that, you're going to pick a side and you're not going to understand the other side. But reality is that it's always going to balance itself out. It's on a huge global scale. Every time one side starts to shift one way, the other side starts to drag it back the other way. And it just keeps kind of doing that. I mean, it's like a sinusoidal wave. The whole reality just keeps shifting up and down, but it eventually balances out. And even if one side goes extreme dip, guess what? It rubber bands back the other way, extreme. You see what I'm saying? Like, Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Good versus evil. All these things. Okay, you hear me. Sit with that, think about it. Find one thing that you are adamant about, that you really care about, whether or not it's politics or something else. Whatever it is that you have a core belief around, I want you to kind of sit and really think about the other side for a few seconds. Maybe even just pop into Google or ChatGPT and just be like, hey, what does the other side believe in? Just to give you an idea of what they care about, and then try to just imagine yourself living their life and caring about the things that they care about, and see how you feel about it. You know, see why that's the way it is, and try to balance it out, balance that equation out a little bit. Okay. We are designed to work or do something first before we receive, and we've created a system that makes things easy and accessible. That's what I believe that's what we're largely living in right now. I was sitting in front of the 2-pack of hot dogs I got from Sheetz, delicious by the way, and realized this as I was eating it and thinking about the time and energy it takes to cook something. It also had me thinking about it. Even though I told myself to eat it later, the thought of these hot dogs in my mini fridge, in my workspace, kept popping into my head until I just decided to give into my urges, just to get it out of the way, get it out of my head. After all, if I eat them and they no longer existed, they would stop popping into my head. But that also made me realize we've designed a world that makes everything too easy for us. And that makes us not only lazy and comfortable, but out of touch with what makes us human and working for things. And I don't just mean like goals and futures or creative pursuits, those too, of course. But even the steps of cooking has been removed. Just buy something from a fast food restaurant and it's there instantly. That takes away the buffer of the time required to prepare, cook, and eat, which I think actually helps us regulate doing those activities more often. And if you take food, for instance, that's actually a good thing. That means not having as many urges to eat, and thus consuming less, because you wouldn't need to prepare it and cook it, which usually creates that buffer. Case in point, I wouldn't be thinking as much about the food that's already easy to eat and consume because it will require time and energy to prepare it. Okay, that's an interesting thought. And I still agree with this one, actually. This is I'm glad I said it this way. What I'm getting at is we have taken away the friction. And I'm only using food in this opinion because we all love eating, but what we're doing is we're making it so easy to treat ourselves quickly to food, to the point where we can get DoorDash, to the point where we can head over to fast food, to the point where we can just go buy something, and we wait. We don't even have to endure the time of preparing it. Okay, and I think that's so. I think that's overlooked. Okay, because when you need to get up, go downstairs, pull stuff out of your refrigerator, prepare it, make it, you're kind of putting your energy into it, you're putting your time into it, and that creates a bit of a buffer, right? So the time that it takes you to prepare something is also what kind of makes you only do it when you really need it, okay? And we're removing that. So that means, take a look at me. I like to eat, okay? And it's really easy for me, anytime I have an urge or to think about it, I can have something instantly, okay? I don't even have to prepare it myself. I just got to give somebody money from energy that I've, earned through my work and I've gotten a paycheck for. It's instant, okay? And I think that's kind of a problem. And I think that the whole world is kind of turning into this easy access thing. And it's removing us from the reality of it. And it's also just making us unhealthy when it comes to just food alone. You know what I mean? The way that I was talking about this was me sitting, getting my work done. And all I could think about in my mini fridge off to my left was the hot dogs that are in there. Okay, already prepared, already ready for me. And I just kept thinking about it. I tried to get back to the work. I'm like, hey, you'll get those later for lunch. But I'm looking at my screen, I'm doing my work. And then I'm getting pulled over. I'm like, but they're already ready. They got relish and sauerkraut on them, and they got everything you love. I'm like, they would be tasty right now. And I'm telling you, I must have battled my own mind with that for 20 or 30 minutes, and I finally just caved in. I'm like, you know what? To heck with it. Ooh, I just seen a nice yellow bird there. ADHD. Whoa, hey, what's going on over here? But yeah, so I caved, and I just ate them. And I'm like, you know, here I am trying to be on a diet, trying to stay strict, and it's just so easy to do that. However, if I needed to go downstairs, pull hot dogs out of the fridge, cut the package open, cook them however I want to cook them, put the bun in, all that kind of stuff. And it's not a long process. But if it would take me time and it wasn't already there and I couldn't visualize the end result already, you know, I would have waited. I would have waited until the right time. Do you see how this kind of like this type of easy access to things can change the way that you think, and can be a very negative influence on your entire life, okay? That's not how reality is. That's not how it used to be many, many years ago, okay? Fast food hasn't always been here, okay? Maybe in your lifetime, if you're, you know, part of another generation that's just coming up now, especially with technology too, it hasn't always been here. So you got to realize that maybe your life is centered around that because you grew up with it. But there was a time before that, for many hundreds and thousands of years, that people didn't do that. And so, you know, we're kind of trying to figure things out. Okay. Moving on. Yeah, I think you hear what I'm saying. Do I want to talk about that? Yeah, real quick. Preflecting. That's a term that I'm kind of thinking about. It's kind of what I do. It's using older situations or circumstances or things that you've experienced in your life to help you when you are about ready to do something new that you've never done before, or something like that. So what I like to call that as like a single word rather than describing it every time, I want to call that pre-reflecting or preflecting. It's the way that I want to say it. Like, you know, thinking about things that you've already thought about to help you in newer circumstances or situations, or maybe even a creative pursuit or something like that. I do that pretty often, and so I just thought it was kind of cool. I wanted to capture that in some way. So I don't know how useful that is for you guys, but maybe it's just a term, and I think I do it quite often. So, and I've never heard anything else out there terminology-wise. Maybe you guys can get in the comments. You know, let me know. Is there something out there that is just what I'm describing, and maybe I'm just not thinking about it very clearly? I don't know. Okay. Our peace and understanding of group consciousness based on your understanding and tuning. Is that just a single thought, or does that branch? Okay. I kind of remember where this one came from. Let me give me just a second here. I got to really connect the dots here, because that one's digging back to the beginning of last week, I think, when I captured this. This is a good one. If you believe in group consciousness, and I'm not going to go into a full elaborated version of that, but kind of where I'm going with this is I think we all contribute to that. I think that's what they like to call the ether. I think that term's been around for a long time, but I think it was more popularized after Nikola Tesla started talking about it, but it's been around. But it's kind of like collective intelligence and wisdom that we can tap into, okay? And it's called the ether. And I like to think that we can contribute to that in some way. But I think we all do that together. So whatever's being most influenced across all of us, that's kind of the way that we're kind of pushing the future for everybody. So while you don't need to be a part of that if you don't want to be, everybody's kind of tuned into something. Positive, negative, different frequencies and such. And I think each one of those has its own influence for the way that things go, or thought, or body of ideas. I don't know really how to describe all this. You know what I mean? The hardest part's describing and articulating the things that you think about anyways. That's part of the reason I'm here doing this. But I think it's an interesting idea, and I think it's kind of true to an extent. And I just don't know if I'm describing it that well. But I think that we're each a contributing piece of that, whether we realize it or not. Now, whether you're aware and actually trying to, and whether or not you are comfortable with what's already in existence that people already think about and what people have already built off of in their own field or niches or specializations, I think we all kind of contribute to that in some way. And whether or not that gives somebody else access to maybe your thoughts if they decide to think in a similar way to whatever pattern you were going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we can tap in other people's thoughts, even the deceased. That's what I'm trying to say, is like we're all a part of this bigger unconscious interconnected brain or something like that. Call it the cloud, whatever you want to call it. I really think that we're kind of tapped into that, all of us. And I think that that's just part of us as a human being, as an organism. Call it telepathy, call it whatever you want to call it. I think that there's something going on bigger than us that I think we all contribute to. Some of us, maybe we're not thinking that clearly. We don't have clarity in our own heads. And I think that's where trying to understand language well enough, express, read books, and kind of know what is the popularized thoughts these days would help you tune into what's already out there and also contribute to it. So you can kind of see how I'm saying, like, go master something and then try to help contribute to it. And you're already, I think, doing that. You don't have to make a book. You don't have to go out there and give speeches. You don't have to influence people. I think we're all doing it as brains that are connected to that. But we also got to know with clarity what we're trying to say and do so that our consciousness can kind of create a pattern or a frequency or something like that. I don't know. This might start sounding a little bit outlandish, but it's something that I kind of keep coming back to. So I thought it was worth sharing. Just think about it. Sit and think about it, okay? You don't have to take this one home with you, but maybe it'll expand your own consciousness a little bit, and that's what this is all about anyways. Okay, let's do one more. Just see here. Okay, this one is from a post I seen. Integrity means what you thought, what you said, and what you did all line up. And I thought that that was true, and I never seen integrity kind of put in such a simple way that I truly agreed with. I have a lot of integrity. I really care about the messages that I send out to people, and I try my hardest to be honest and real, but it's hard because it means that I need to express it well. And I need to also understand sometimes that I don't know everything and that I need to remind myself of that. Sometimes I feel like I know quite a bit because I've spent many decades studying, thinking about things, processing it, bouncing ideas off of other people and such like that. But at the end of the day, if I'm not doing a good job of kind of helping you guys expand your own beliefs, be open enough so that I'm not forcing you guys to, take something home as ultimate or this is the facts, you need to take it this way. Sometimes I lose sight of that. And this kind of brings me back. This little quote here, whatever you want to see, that I saw on some digital post somewhere that I thought was really good. Again, and I'll repeat it because I think it's really, it's that honest and true. Integrity means what you thought, what you said, and what you did all line up. And sometimes we get a little bit stuck because sometimes one of those things didn't line up the way we wanted it to. Maybe we didn't say it exactly the way we thought it or anything like that. It's hard to kind of sync all those things up all at once and keep that integrity. But the more you keep practicing, being a little bit more aware of what you're saying and what you said and reflecting on what you said and being like, well, that's not exactly how I meant it. If I get myself into another conversation like that, I got to be a little bit more careful, this kind of thing. It'll help you in the future quite a bit, and it'll help you have more integrity, okay? Integrity is something that you kind of got to work towards. It's a skill, really, in my opinion. So keep that in mind, that it's probably not going to be perfect. It's going to take some time, and being fully honest with yourself, that's hard sometimes. We've all got these little white lies we kind of do where we're like, I want to protect this person, or you do it however you want. And sometimes we start, using those in other situations sometimes too. So now you're just like drowning in even if it's a small, insignificant lie, you're now using it in multiple places, and you as a person feel less honest the more you keep doing this. And that becomes a habit. That becomes its own skill, the skill of lying. So to pull yourself out of that and to be more honest, you need to reshape your entire language around what honesty really means and sounds like, because that's its own body of thought and reality and way of articulating things and expressing things. So just keep that in mind. I've been guilty of it. I've been consciously aware of it. I've caught myself doing it. And I'm like, I think we get so good at it at some point that we actually bury it down. And sometimes we don't even realize, we're lying because, it's the same thing we kept saying over and over and over again. So catching yourself doing these things and becoming more honest, it's hard. It is hard. That's why this is important. Reflecting on things that you thought about or said, sitting and thinking about your thoughts a little bit, giving them some time, even doing what I do, jotting some of these down as the week goes on. Maybe they're good ideas. Maybe there's something that you said that something didn't feel right about it. Maybe there's something else. Capture these down and just give yourself some quiet time to come back to it later on and think about it. Like, is this what I really meant to say? How might I have said that differently? Is this honest with me? Kind of sitting and thinking about it. That's its own skill. And that's what I'm modeling for you guys here. So keep that in mind. Okay, that's it on this one. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys there.